covering the world of professional wrestling from coast to post. A show for the Busted Open Nation. This is the Nation Corner. Here are your hosts, Front Row, Cody, Justice, and Debhausen.
Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to Nation's Corner. I am Front Row. With me, as always, is Debhausen, the great and powerful, and Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time. What's up, guys?
That's me. What's going on?
What is up? Me and Tony, saw Top Gun Maverick today. Not together, separately, but at the same time. So
separately, but virtually.
Separately, but virtually, yes. So we're ready to turn and burn, baby. Let's go.
Okay, spoiler-free review.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what she said. They did a great job of tying everything in, making it all make sense.
Yes. Shout out to the Savage Gentleman, Victor Benjamin, for this amazing shirt that I got. So go see Savage Gentleman for a shirt just like this, or the flip, because he was inverted.
Yeah, big shout out to Savage Gentleman, friend of the show, good dude, and of course, Lady Frost. Man, it was an eventful week. I don't know how we're going to fit it all into one show, but we're certainly going to have a go at it.
We will try.
So it was crazy. So, we saw Double or Nothing last weekend, and then there was Raw and then Dynamite, and of course SmackDown and Rampage, and those are just the big shows. A bunch of other stuff happened too with GCW and New Japan, and I think at some point we've got to get Neil and Ezra on here to talk some New Japan for us.
Yes.
Especially with the Forbidden Door stuff coming up, and I know Ezra is going to be in attendance for Forbidden Door, which is pretty cool. But before we get started, I did want to talk a little bit about a friend of ours, you guys know Sam Roberts, he, about a year and a half ago, he put out this idea of new kayfabe. And it's sort of starting to take hold. I think he released another pod this week talking about it. And essentially, it's this idea where back in the day, there was real, and then there was what we saw on TV, and there was just those two camps, right? And oftentimes, you would never see the stuff that happened in reality because it was all protected, pre-internet, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As the internet age really became a thing and people got more insight and more access to information about the wrestling world, we started to get smarter to the business, for lack of a better term. And with shows like Busted Open, we have even more insight. It's typically a positive view, but it's still, we have a lot more data. We have a lot more color to what goes on behind the scenes to a certain extent, right? So then we start to think, okay, well, we really know what's going on. We know that this is TV and this is reality. Now there's this idea of new kayfabe where the wrestling world has figured out how to use that layer of reality to tell stories. And we've used this example before where Ronda and Charlotte told an amazing, Ronda and Becky, told an amazing story. Today, we still don't really know what happened. Did they hate each other? Was all of that? We don't know. And I thought it was a great example. But now, fast forward to this week, we saw probably the greatest example I've seen of this new kayfabe, and that's the stuff that's going on with MJF. So the timeline is, and just to preface this by saying, we don't have any insider information. We know what everybody else knows, what we read on the internet, whether you believe it or not. Some of it is questionable. Some of it's from reliable sources. Some of it's stuff we saw on TV.
Yeah.
Which is great from a world building perspective. Right? I want to buy into this stuff. I want to think, okay, this is real. I want reality in my wrestling. I think Bully talks about that a lot on the show. Last week, MJF, no shows and appearance. We talked about that on the show. Was that real? Well, it was real. He didn't show up. Fans were pissed. Whether it's part of a storyline or not, I don't know. But I know that it happened. So I take that into account going into Double or Nothing. Is he going to show up? Well, he bought a plane ticket. He didn't show up on the plane. All these reports are coming out. And whether it's real or not, whether we know what's happened or not, it made me want to watch. It made me super invested to see what was going to happen. And the match wasn't even anything spectacular between him and Wardlow.
Right.
Didn't matter. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But the magic, and we're going to jump right into this now. I know we got a lot of stuff to cover, but the magic was his promo on Dynamite. There's a lot of layers to this. I think everybody has seen this promo, so we're not going to go over it bit by bit. But some of the stuff that he said felt so genuinely real and angry from the performer Max's perspective that I 100% bought into it. And I have no idea what percentage is shoot and which is, a work. I don't care. I know it's one of the most compelling things I've seen on TV in a while. And I absolutely will be tuning in next week to see. So my question to you guys is, and I know we have differing opinions on this sometimes, how much information is too much information and how much of it is good background to a story? Deb?
So I think there is a certain degree that too much insider knowledge of like how the hot dog is made, so to speak, is not that much of a good thing, because the fans start to think that they know everything that happens, and the fans start to think that they're smarter than some other people or whatever. But then I think this whole thing is kind of like an interesting reverse psychology where it's being flipped on the fans who think they know everything. And it's kept as...
Thanks, MJF.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's being flipped on us, so we're not sure what is real information coming out, what is, behind the scenes stuff that is real, or what is, stuff that's being played up for storyline. And I think that as a fan, that's really interesting, because I don't really ever want to feel like I just know how everything is done and I know how everything works, because that, ruins the illusion of this whole thing that we call professional wrestling. It's an illusion, and you're supposed to suspend disbelief. If we are confident that we know everything that's going on behind the scenes, and we know how everything is going to turn out, and we know how everything is planned, then what's the point as a fan?
Well, according to GNR, we're supposed to use our illusion.
That's an outdated notion, though. It's an old album, Tony. You're showing your age. Although I'm older than you, so.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, like you said, I'm not sure if this, is real, or if this is part of the storyline. Frankly, I don't give a damn. I like it anyway. It's the most entertaining, compelling thing we've seen on wrestling TV in a long time, that just, like Seth just said in the chat, it allows us to just sit back and enjoy. We enjoy the drama. We enjoy not knowing if it's real or if it's storyline. What we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's enjoyable as a fan. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So,
I made the comment.
Go ahead, Ty.
Go ahead, front row. Go ahead.
No, but it's just we've seen examples of this where, take a guy like The Miz, right? The Miz is a character on TV. We see Michael Mizanin and Maurice behind the scenes on their own reality show. We know 100% that the stuff that he does on Miz TV and all that stuff is character-based. That's a very clear defining line between character and performer.
Yeah.
But then you look at a guy like Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is dialed up, sure, but like I've been around Eddie in real life. Like, that's Eddie. So when he's out there talking about wanting to, damage somebody and do all this stuff, I'm like, I 100% believe that he wants to do that. Whether they're working together, whether there's a contract, I don't know about any of that stuff. Yeah. What I know is a guy like that comes out, and I believe 100% that he wants to murder somebody, or for lack of a better term.
Well, I mean, he is from Yonkers, that's the way they are. But yeah, I agree with your point that, like, it puts the realism in your face where you do believe it, and that's the way it should be. Tony?
Yeah. I said it a few days ago. I don't care if it's a work or shoot. I was thoroughly entertained by the promo. It kept me involved. It kept me tuned into my screen. I want to know what's going to happen next. I don't want to know the magician's tricks, like Phil's fan just said in the live chat. I don't want magicians to come out on stage after the act and go, okay, so this is how I did this. I don't want to know that. I don't want to be too inside. I want to be able to be entertained and, do kayfabe where kayfabe can still be used, and enjoy, you know. That's why I like to stay away from dirt sheets. I don't want to know, okay, so the promo was supposed to be shut off at this time, but blah blah blah. I don't want to know that.
Yeah, we don't need to know production details. Like,
So
it's fun to learn some behind the scenes stuff. Like, we all enjoy watching the documentaries that the WWE Network puts out because, it is cool to hear some of the behind the scenes stuff. But Ashley just said in the chat, we don't need to know everything. We don't need to know everything. And yes, Ashley, I do try to stay away from those words. I specifically did not say those words, so I don't want Bully to be mad at me.
So that's an interesting point because I typically steer clear of them as well. And I'm only using them here to demonstrate a point. I think it's important that, like, Busted Open has introduced us to a whole new vocabulary. And like, for example, when you're a little kid, you know what the curse words are, but you don't use them around your parents. Same thing. I know what the words mean. I know what the terminology is, but I'm not going to use them in a public setting.
Yeah.
In private, we might talk about things differently. So I want to use this as an example. Tony, you talked about the magician, and back in the day, David Copperfield was the most famous magician, and he would do some amazing stuff, but you didn't really know how it was done.
And I still don't want to know how it's done.
Fast forward, and Mrs. Front Row and I saw Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller will sit there, and they will tell you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to take away all the illusion, and they're still going to do something that you're going to go, I don't know how they did it.
Right.
And to me, that's like an example. That's like a parallel for new kayfabe. You've given me a bunch of background stuff. You've given me insider information, and I still don't know what the real is here. And I think that's, for me personally, that's when wrestling is at its best. When the people who are at the most P1 level, the most insider, hardcore fans still don't know what's going on and they're invested. Man, that's a magic trick right there. And we saw magic this week.
Exactly. Like, we don't know what's what, and that's the most compelling part. It kind of reminds me of, oh God, what am I thinking of? Like, I'm blanking here. Someone in the chat just said earlier about, like, Stone Cold telling Jake the Snake to, thump his Bible. Well, now we know the whole story behind that. And that kind of happened by accident because Triple H was out. But it's still one of those things where you're like, do these people have, like, real heat? Do they really not like each other? And there's been so many rivalries where you're not sure about that.
Yeah, but doesn't that add spice to the story? I mean, if you just think there's two wrestlers out there who are fulfilling their dates by wrestling a match, it's a lot less interesting than, oh my God, these guys really, or these two women really dislike each other. Like, I want to find it. Or what you could also liken this to is someone who has had a journey, who's had a very difficult, story before they came to the major promotion. And there's a lot of examples of that where people are like, I'm invested in this person because I followed them through the indies, and now I want them to win because I know their real life story. Like, that's it's kind of insider, but like, you're still, and we always liken this to the Olympic profiles. If you watch the Olympics and they do the profiles on the different athletes. Oh yeah. I didn't have any idea who this person was 10 minutes ago now. And now I want them to win. I want them to set a record, whatever it is. now I'm totally invested. So those are the things and those little vignettes that they do where they give you the not backstage, but history, giving color and depth to the characters and storyline is what gets people to buy in, to buy the pay-per-views and to watch on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And he just said in the chat, hits hard verbally, makes it more fun for us fans. And that's true. Like, we talked about MJF, and it's been, compared to Punk's pipe bomb promo, basically in every conversation since Wednesday. And there is a lot of similarities in those two promos, but I think the biggest difference is that.
Yep, Deb's locked up. Deb's having some
Biggest
internet
difference is that her internet is rough right now. That's the biggest difference. I'll go ahead and finish her thought.
I think Tony Khan. I see Tony Khan's fingerprints on that.
Yeah. I know what she's saying though. It's us fans want to be able to enjoy something and not have the basically earlier. I'll just go ahead behind the curtain. Me and Deb went and watched Top Gun today, right? And you say, whenever you step away from the camera, you go and do other stuff. You're getting your area set up or whatever. And we wanted to talk about the movie, but we did not want to spoil it for you, so we stayed away from certain things. It's kind of the same thing here. You don't want to know all the secrets and stuff. You want to be able to be entertained and not have the ending spoiled for you per se. Yeah. Welcome back, Deb.
So what I'm saying is that Punk's promo, he speaks very calmly. He didn't scream and yell in his pipe bomb promo. He didn't see the veins out of his neck. He sat in the ring, Indian style. Well, not in the ring, on stage. And he spoke very calmly. Whereas MJF, on the other hand, screamed and yelled, and we saw the veins popping out of his forehead. The anger and made you believe even more. And he got the fans cheering for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Trend is in the chat too, and shout out to Trend and Lexi, who were in Vegas this week for the karaoke and for Double or Nothing, and they had a bunch of fun. And I saw some of the videos, man. It looked like a really good time. But she's right, like and that's one of the things they talked about on Busted Open this week is you want to feel something. You want to be emotional about it, whether it's a win or a loss or just the story itself. And I don't think that you watch a guy like Baron Corbin or Happy Corbin or whatever he is, like, what you're watching. It's fun, but I also see the guy on Instagram in his mansion grilling steaks and having fun with his family. Like, I know the two sides of that, but I also know what I'm watching. But also that means that makes it difficult for me to buy into a storyline with him. That's fun. That's not like a blood feud. And we start to look at some of like the real serious blood feuds, like what's going on with Cody and Seth right now. I don't know anything about behind the scenes with them, but I 100% believe that Cody is there to build his legacy. I know from what he said on blogs or vlogs and social media and interviews for years. So like I buy into all that. That's insider information. That's not really insider. It's more background color, right?
Right.
So I mean, and we could talk about this forever, but I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with the MJF stuff. I know they took him off of all their socials. He's not in the opening of the shows. He's not on the merch site. He's not on the roster site. And I think whether that's real or part of the story, I don't care. I think it's really well done. I think that maybe he is off renegotiating a contract. Maybe he walked out and we just haven't heard about it yet. I don't know. I'll look up, but I'm going to watch Dynamite next week to find out if they're going to give us an update.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly.
So you mentioned Punk, and the one thing I did want to mention, it's interesting that you said Punk promo because the pipe bomb promo felt very real, right? Even at the time, we knew that if he was going completely off script, that they would have just shut his mic off 20 seconds in. And Punk has said in interviews, like he had run all that stuff by them. They knew what he was going to say, but it didn't matter. In the moment, I was 100% invested. Same thing with MJF. Like in no world would he get that far into a promo completely not approved.
Yeah.
You go off script, maybe. I don't know. Sure, maybe. But we know that had to have been approved for him to get that far into before they shut the mics off. And when he started dropping F-bombs, I think that's kind of when they were like, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
My honest opinion is that it was very real up until the point where they came to some kind of agreement, whenever that was during this time frame. And now they're figuring out how to tell the story and use it to the best advantage, which I'm here for 100%. Keep telling me the story.
Yeah.
I want to see MJF in an airport with a WWE star. I want to see him doing, just keep dropping those breadcrumbs so that I'm invested. I don't care who he faces. I'm just interested to see where the story goes.
Mm-hmm.
So for Punk, like we saw Punk get injured at the pay-per-view. I don't know for a fact, but I've seen video. It looks like he may have injured his ankle jumping into the crowd, maybe because he limped through the match.
Yeah.
And then he came out and announced that his foot was broken. We don't know what the exact injury is or what the recovery time is going to be. He said it was going to require surgery. But I wanted to get so that's 100% real. He's injured, right?
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think he should have relinquished the title if he's going to be out for an extended period of time. I understand from a business perspective why they want to keep the title on him because he is such a big name. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this convoluted setup they have for this interim championship.
Yeah, I understand not wanting to take the title off of him, being that it's CM Punk and it was a pretty good build for him to win, and it's a major story for CM Punk to return to wrestling after 7 years away to win a championship, that they wouldn't want to just have him relinquish the title 3 days after winning. But this whole interim thing, I think the way that they announced it and the social media posts that they've made so far, it's kind of confusing. Like you read it and you're like, okay, what's happening now? So
yeah.
I hope it works out, and I hope it works out well, for everybody involved. I do understand the not wanting to take the title off Punk. I'm just not sure, like how do they do this? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, I made a comment earlier, that I didn't understand when we were watching it last night. I noticed CM Punk when he got into the ring. I was like, it looks like he's crying, and he had tears. He had obviously had tears in his eyes. I just didn't understand what was happening. And when he explained it, he still didn't really. It didn't come across like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. This is what's happening, and this is the result of what happened. Well, we didn't get any of that. They must have cleared it up on commentary. They posted.
Didn't. And what made it more confusing is Jericho actually said that he had relinquished his title, and then on social media, Jericho apologized and said he misspoke. So here's the official statement from AEW, and it's a long statement, so I'm just going to summarize it. But essentially, they're going to have a battle royal on Dynamite. The winner of the battle royal will then face Moxley, who is the number one contender. Which, by the way, he wasn't the number one contender yesterday morning. They issued a new rankings with him magically at number one. Whatever. So the main event of Dynamite next week will be the winner of the Battle Royal versus Mox. The winner of that match will then go on to Forbidden Door to face the winner of Tanahashi and Goto will face off in the New Japan match. The winner of that match will face the winner of the Dynamite match for the interim AEW championship. So you're going to have a New Japan talent versus an AEW talent at the pay-per-view for the interim title. That's pretty clear, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, and here's the thing: like, are they going to put an interim champion on a New Japan talent? Tanahashi, maybe. He's a big name there. He's one of the biggest names there, but I don't know. My prediction is Moxley's just going to be the interim champion, but who knows?
Like, I'm okay with the concept of an interim champion, but I think the way that they're setting it up just seems like a far-fetched way to put the title on a certain person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just making sure I have this correct. Yep, that's correct. So
Yeah.
the main event of Forbidden Door will be the winner of that match, the New Japan talent versus the AEW talent. And they'll crown an interim champion. And so depending on the length of recovery for Punk, he could be out 6, 8, 10 weeks, depending on whether it's a bone break, is it a complex fracture?
Yeah.
We don't really know.
Yeah. And I think I feel like doing this whole interim thing, they did it with the TNT title, and even that got a little confusing. They had the second title, which was given to Dan Lambert, and it. Who knows? I hope it sorts itself out, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
And shout out to Drill Sergeant Z. We got a chance to hang out with him in Texas recently. Good dude, big supporter of Mission Pro, and I think his family are moving very soon to New Jersey. This is a good point because I've always had the issue with calling world titles if they're never defended outside the United States. If you have a New Japan talent win this interim world title and they take it back to New Japan and defend it, that will be the first official AEW world title.
Mm-hmm.
Officially, by those rules. So that's an interesting opportunity.
Right.
And that could set up an eventual. Go ahead, Tony.
I feel like this is all to save face, really. I mean, instead of just doing what needs to be done, if CM Punk can't defend the title, within the proper, and I know Brock Lesnar did the thing in WWE with his championship, whatever. But I feel like if a wrestler can't defend the championship within a certain parameter, then the right thing needs to be done, vacate the title and have a tournament to be the new champion. And when Punk gets healthy again, have him come in and challenge for the title again. Just it sucks that he got injured. You can't plan for these. You just have to plan for the outcome after. You got to plan the aftermath. It sucks that he got injured, but that's just my take. That's my opinion.
Agreed. So it's going to be interesting. And I see, who is it here? Trenda. Trenda is looking to see Omega as part of the tournament. It's not a tournament. There's just a battle royal. So there's a battle royal on Dynamite. The winner of that match faces Mox in the main event of Dynamite. And the other competitors have already been named. So there's no tournament.
Yeah.
Again, confusing the audience a little bit. But I understand they had to come up with something on very short notice.
Right.
I get it. I'm not a huge fan of interim championships. It's like vacate it and, crown a new champion, in my opinion. We've seen it several times. Jordan Devlin in NXT UK got stuck overseas in COVID and had to relinquish. They did an interim title for him. And that got very complicated because they weren't able to record any TV. So he wasn't even on TV and he was the title for like a year or so. We saw Thunder Rosa had to relinquish her Tokyo Joshi Pro title because of the pandemic, because of the travel restrictions. She wasn't able to defend her title. So they stripped her title and away they went. And I agree with my wife. Mrs. Front Row says battle royals are hard to watch. They are a clusterfuck right up until the last like 3 or 4 people are in that match because it gets to be a bit much. There's like 20 people doing spots everywhere and it's complicated.
Yeah. Something interesting. If a New Japan guy wins the championship at Forbidden Door, is he going to take it over to Japan and defend it and make it a real world's title?
That's what we just talked about, Tony.
Oh, well, okay.
It's all right, man. We got you. No, but that's the thing. Like, even if a New Japan talent wins it, they have to take it overseas and defend it. Just bringing it over there, because AEW talents have taken their titles overseas many times, but they haven't defended them. So as it stands right now, none of the AEW titles are true world titles because they've never been defended outside the United States.
Right. And Drill Sergeant Z in the chat said, does AEW have the same 30-day rule WWE has? First of all, WWE hasn't seemed to have that rule in a while because...
And they made an announcement that they were no longer going to do that last year.
Because because we saw Brock Lesnar go, however long with the title without defending it, because they only put him on like 2 pay-per-views a year. So, they haven't had that rule since then. They just kind of ignored it.
Yeah, and to Ashley's point, Becky did relinquish her title, but that's different because she was pregnant, and there was a whole pregnancy period, and they knew it was going to be at least a year before she came back. Punk could be back in just a handful of weeks, so the time is a little bit different. Right. But I still think they have that opportunity to have Punk return and chase again for the title.
Yeah. So before we move on to other things, I kind of want to touch on what your guys' opinion is on the concept that we've been hearing a lot of gripes, and MJF even mentioned it in his promo, that people are starting to get really pissed off at AEW for showcasing the ex-WWE guys more than the AEW original roster. We heard reports that after Chris Statlander lost to Ruby, people were booing Ruby because they felt that Statlander deserved the win more because she's an AEW original. So I wanted to hear you guys' opinion on that whole gripe. And we did hear someone called into Busted Open today and kind of made the point that I agree with, and I've kind of been saying this all along, that it's quite interesting that all these people that are going from WWE to AEW, they're deemed the ex-WWE guys, and when they win, it's, of course the ex-WWE guys won because they're not pushing the AEW guys. But when AJ Styles and Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe went to WWE, they weren't seen as the ex-Impact or ex-ROH guys. So why is that? Why are people putting that negativity on AEW when they didn't put that same negativity on WWE?
Tony?
Well, I feel like when you say ex-WWE, it's going to get more of a pop from the fans. It's going to get more recognition. If you say an ex-Impact, it's not really going to move the needle. I hate to say it like that because Impact is Impact, and I love Impact. But WWE, when a talent from WWE comes over anywhere, of course they're carrying that recognition with them. So that's what I think is going on here. And if you remember back Wednesday when MJF used that in the promo, as soon as he said ex-WWE guys, that place went crazy. Before they were just, they were reacting, but they weren't really popping. When he said that, they popped. So that's what I feel. I feel like they just carry that recognition from WWE everywhere they go. So that's a way for whatever company they go to use that as kind of clout.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a warranted negative though, because they made it to the mountaintop. They made it to the big time. But for a long time, WWE was, kind of the only option if you wanted to really get well known as a wrestler. Of course, Impact and ROH and New Japan were around, but especially here in America, the average wrestling fan that's not necessarily the hardcore fan like we are, they didn't watch that back then. And I didn't watch, Impact or ROH or, anything else other than WWE until probably 3-4 years ago. And there's a lot of people like that. So I think it's a negativity that's kind of a little far-fetched in my opinion, because I don't see it that way. Everybody has worked somewhere else. You go to so many shows, you talk to any wrestler and they know so many people from so many different companies and different regions of the country because they've all traveled everywhere and they've all worked for multiple different places. So I don't see it as a negative that these people are ex-WWE and they should lose because they've worked in WWE before.
So there's a couple layers to this, and Mrs. Front Row said it too about the legitimacy of WWE and bringing that to a new company and carrying that, as Tony said, like the clout and the prestige of being at the top of the mountain. When you're in WWE, you are in the premier top of the food chain company, and you're bringing that to another company. You're bringing the spotlight and your fan base, because you have a bigger fan base when you work for the biggest company in the world, biggest wrestling company in the world. When you come from Impact to WWE, yeah, there's a little bit, but like it's graduation day. You're still moving up in the ranks. So from that perspective, I understand it. But what frustrates me is Daniel Bryan said it best: fans are fickle. These same people that were screaming to the mountaintops when Malachi Black or when Aleister Black was on his way out the door, oh, they need him in AEW. Then he goes to AEW and they're like, oh, we don't want the ex-WWE people here. Well,
exactly.
You guys were screaming that you wanted Bryan Danielson and Aleister Black or Malachi Black and all these other people when John Huber came over to AEW. Nobody was screaming about him being an ex-WWE guy. He was one of their biggest stars. He did amazing work in AEW, and I think it's disingenuous to think that someone's not going to, especially people at that talent level. I understand there's people that were released that have come over that maybe are mid-carders or whatever. That's a separate conversation. But when you're talking about top stars, why wouldn't you hire them?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you hire them to make your product better? You look at the stuff that Bryan Danielson has done since he's come over. It's been the best work of his career. So I don't want to hear, Ember Moon, Athena, is an incredible talent. She is an amazing wrestler, and she is someone that I think the women's division needed another person at that top tier main event level. I'm sorry if she worked at WWE. She's a great talent. I don't care where she used to work.
Yeah. And Ruby is the perfect example because she was cheered so much and everybody was so excited when she showed up on AEW because she got lost in WWE and it just, she realized it wasn't the place for her. I've seen her multiple interviews and on vlogs recently saying that AEW feels, the right place for her. We cheered and we were so joyful when she showed up on AEW that finally we get to see Ruby. And then now they're booing her because she won over someone who was an AEW original roster member. It doesn't make any sense, and it seems very fickle to me.
Elder brings up an interesting point. When WWE people are vocally disgruntled and they come over, I think that the AEW fans take ownership of that and go, well, come over here. It's better. It's better over here. But then to MJF's point, like, we don't know, we're not in the locker room, but that might build like an us versus them. When AEW launched, their locker room was very much like a team, a family mentality, where the alternative, we're going to build something different and special. And as they bring more and more WWE people in, it starts to look and feel a lot like the product that they just left.
Yeah. And I understand that. And I feel like that's going to happen naturally. When the company first started, yes, it was a brand new company. They had a small roster of mostly younger indie wrestlers. And of course, there was going to be that family environment, like the want to prove themselves, the want to prove that this new company is a contender. And I think, it's going to naturally happen that as more people joined the roster, it took them some time to build a roster. They couldn't just stick with the original roster that they had. It wouldn't have worked to make the company a contender. They had to bring in more big name stars. And as that happens, they are going to lose that family feel in the locker room because it's not people that were there since the beginning. Those people that were there since the beginning and ran at Daly's place week in and week out throughout the pandemic, they had a camaraderie that the other people coming in are just not gonna have with them necessarily. But that's going to happen anywhere. People come in and out all the time of every wrestling company.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Think back to when Thunder first joined AEW. She was an NWA talent wrestling on AEW programming, had one of the best matches in her career as an NWA talent with Britt Baker in the first Lights Out match.
Mm-hmm.
No one was saying anything about Thunder when she
Yeah.
came to AEW. They were
No one was
welcoming it.
saying like, "Oh, she's not an AEW talent. She
Right.
shouldn't have won."
Right. And now look at her, top of the food chain in the women's division in AEW.
I'd love to. She's
Well,
never on TV.
yeah. And that's a good segue too, isn't that, Front Row?
That is a great segue.
Look,
Yeah.
full transparency. You guys know that we all have a friendship with Thunder, but if I take that hat off and put on a fan's hat, and I've supported this person as a fan, right? I want to see my champion, and this goes true for all of the champions. I want to see my champion on TV. I just followed this person's storyline building up to this incredible main event at Dynamite. She wins the title, and then since March 13th up until Double or Nothing, she had 19 minutes of screen time, including a match. Like, that's unacceptable from a fan's perspective. I don't care if she wrestles every week. I just want to see her out there with the title, sitting ringside, backstage promos.
Yeah.
She's a great promo. She's cut some killer promos over the last few weeks. We've even gotten to see the real side of her. She introduced the audience to Mel last week. But they don't give her enough opportunity to build the women's division if we don't see her, and especially if we don't see her in the ring.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, she doesn't need to wrestle every week. And I know I've been talking about this to you guys constantly for the past couple of days, but I just listened to the episode of Matt Hardy's podcast about his run with Bray Wyatt. And by the way, he spoke very highly of Bray Wyatt. But he said, when him and Bray had won the tag team championships, he told Vince that he didn't want to have a match every week. He wanted to do vignettes and promos and, help build the story that way. But, at the time, Vince had insisted on just doing non-title matches every week. And we know how that turned out. But yeah, we don't necessarily need to see Thunder on a match every week or defending the championship every week. We just need to see her. Like you said, see her in promos, do some pre-taped vignettes, have her sitting on commentary during the other women's matches to watch her potential contenders. Yes.
Right.
Like Britt did. Britt was always on commentary during every other women's match to watch her contenders and be there as an intimidator. Thunder should be doing that. Thunder should be out there every chance she gets. And I don't quite understand why she's not being given the opportunity to shine and show what she can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to Mrs. Front Row's point, and it goes back to the Daniel Bryan, the Yes movement, and it goes back to so many things that when the fans want something so bad, you can force a company to take notice and change direction. And not that they've changed direction with her, but they just haven't done anything, right? So I think, and it's funny because I looked at Tony Khan's tweet from a few days ago, right after Double or Nothing, thanking the fans for watching. And there were 30 to 40% of the responses were, "Hey, where the hell is Thunder? Like, where's our champion?" And that's yeah, the give divas a chance. That was a real thing. It trended for 3 solid days, and it made people sit up and notice and go, "All right, well, what they're doing in NXT is special. They're having killer main event matches there. We want to see that on Raw and SmackDown." And it happened. It took the fans demanding something. So, y'all, let's keep talking about this on social media and reminding them that everybody wants to see our champ.
And Tony called into Busted Open and had a very good point. Why don't you say, Tony?
Yeah, I was very subtle in what I said. Of course, welcoming Thunder to Busted Open, laying the welcome mat out for her. She was so amazing on the show yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I simply said, whoever has Thunder on their roster should feel very blessed. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Wherever roster she's on, she needs to be, they need to be focused, showcasing her every chance they get. Because she is an amazing talent that, in my opinion, she has not been able to go 100% Thunder Rosa. Because you see Thunder show up in GCW or some other wrestling show, and the pop for her is amazing, and she's out there. It's like she has a following wherever she goes. But she's on AEW, and it's almost like they keep her in a box.
Yeah. Even when you watch her vlog. When you
Yeah.
watch her vlog and see, you know, how she interacts with the fans at conventions, you know, people love her. People really love her. And you know, I don't know why, you know, they're not taking advantage of that.
Well, she does amazing things for the community. I mean, she's very involved with the community in AEW with Mark
Yeah.
Henry, and the things that she's doing for things that's going on right now. And we're going to get into that in a few seconds. The things that she's doing, the gear she wore on Double or Nothing. You know, she's doing a great thing with that gear. In front row, why don't you tell everybody what she's doing?
Yeah, so Thunder's teamed up with the Pawn Stars guys. I think she was on Busted Open this week talking about that on Friday, and she's auctioning off her gear to help out the families of the tragedy in Uvalde. And here's a link to the not GoFundMe. Here's a link to the auction site, and it's some really intricate, amazing work. And she talked
Beautiful.
about the butterflies and the different symbols that she used that they incorporated into it. And I can tell you, this was really expensive gear to make. So I hope this goes for a lot of, I hope this goes for a lot of money, just because I hope that someone comes along and really appreciates, you know, what they're doing here. So go to that site, and if it's within your means, place a bid. I think the bid's currently around 5,000. So it's going to take a special person to up that, but
Yeah.
hopefully that happens. It's a good thing that they're doing. But to your point, Tony, Thunder's vlog that was released today, they documented the school that she and Brian and L Editor went to. It happened to be on the day of the school shooting, and it was the shooting was happening while they were at the meeting with the kids, and they didn't find out about it until after they had left. So, but it was very impactful for her, because the community, the Uvalde community, is also only I think an hour or so from San Antonio. So
it's like 45 minutes away.
Okay, yeah. So it hit her hard, it hit her family hard, and of course it hit all of us really hard. So if you're not able to bid on it, just go on her socials and give it a retweet so more people see it. But yeah, they do a lot of stuff with the community, and I got to give AEW a lot of credit. They do stuff. Her and Mark, and I think Captain Sean Dean and a few others do a lot of work. Pretty much every city they go to, they do some community outreach. So it's very cool. So let's move on a little bit. So at Double or Nothing, we saw some interesting stuff happen, but then I want to fast forward to. I did want to talk. Okay, here it is right here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is an interesting point, because Jade's TBS title reign has overshadowed the world title picture. And I have all the respect in the world for Jade. I think she's a great champion. She is.
Jade.
Me
Love
too.
Jade.
I think she's terrific. I do think that Athena's going to take that title from her, but we'll see.
I agree. Think so. I agree with that. But yeah, I love Jade, and you know, she's a powerhouse. So yeah, I follow her on Instagram. The pictures she posts, like, damn. But you know, she's definitely improved a lot. You know, we know that she has, you know, worked very hard to learn and to improve. But yeah, I mean, regardless of that title is the secondary title, and unfortunately it's overshadowing the primary title right now.
Yeah.
Where the primary title is a complete afterthought and practically being ignored in favor of the secondary title.
Right. Well, Jade, you know, and having her entourage, you know, with the secondary title. And then when Britt was champion, she had the entourage with Jamie Hayter and Rebel.
Right.
Come on, guys. Let's go be Thunder's entourage. Let's get her some freaking TV time. And
Let's
that's
do
what it takes. Come on.
I'm not getting
do
in the ring.
it.
I'm not getting in the ring.
I'm not getting in the ring, but you know, I'll walk down the ramp with her.
I'll do a promo. Hey, I got to be security at Mission Pro recently, so we're good.
Tony can do a hell of a promo. I know that. Tony can cut a promo on anyone when he feels like it.
Yeah, well. I'll settle for holding her championship while she cuts the promos. How's that?
Okay. Yes, Sean would be a hell of a bodyguard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. The last thought I'll have on the Thunder situation is there's going to come a time when she's going to turn and she's going to be a bad guy. And I've seen her bits and pieces as a bad guy. I've seen her angry in real life. And
you do not want to mess with a Mexican woman when she's angry.
No.
You do not.
No, and to quote the great Dr. Dre, y'all going to keep fucking around with me and turn me back to the old me. And it's going to be interesting.
Yes.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit of Hell in a Cell, which is tomorrow night.
Yes.
This is, man, like, we don't talk a lot of WWE, but the stuff that Cody and Seth have been doing, especially the promos Cody's been cutting, has been next level. Like, 100% believable. I'm completely invested in this match. The stuff that they did with Seth making references to the sledgehammer and the throne that he did in AEW, like, they're not specifically taking shots at AEW. What they're doing is they're using that story to take shots at each other, which I think is the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I mean, you guys know, I'll admit it. I was the first one to say, I remember saying it, quote, I don't see Cody in AEW, in WWE. I don't get it. I don't see it. Doesn't make sense. Well, I will admit I was wrong. I was wrong.
Now, you guys were both there for his debut. What was that like?
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. The pop in that massive city of a stadium. That stadium is breathtaking. But yeah, that pop, and it got me there. It got me right there. Prior to that moment, I was like, nah, I don't see it. Doesn't make sense. But that night at WrestleMania, that got me. That had me hooked in. And y'all know I don't really draw, but I try to keep up the story because it's just Cody freaking Rhodes. And that's, plain and simple. It's Cody freaking Rhodes.
Yeah. It's like if Cody had showed back up in WWE and he was dashing Cody Rhodes again, or if he was Stardust again, then we'd be saying, no, this isn't right for Cody.
Although I kind of like Stardust. I admit it. I liked Stardust. I liked it. Don't care.
But he hated it.
I get it.
Cody can speak
get
for
it.
Cody, right?
I get that he hated it, but I liked it. It was fun. He looked like Mermaid Man from SpongeBob.
And Barnacle Boy?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I was saying,
sorry.
So Deb,
y'all gonna keep fucking with me and get the real me. How's that? No. So the reason why we're saying this about Cody is because he is the same character he was in AEW, except he's on a bigger stage. Let's just say it. He's on a bigger stage now. He's getting what he feels he needs for his career, and the fans are 1,000% behind him. I mean, he comes out, that's Superman coming out. The fans are totally behind him. And so he wouldn't be getting that same treatment if he was Stardust or dashing Cody Rhodes or any other character besides what he is now. So the reason why Cody's getting this respect is because it's a character, it's his brand that he created in AEW. He did all that stuff in AEW, the throne stuff, all that, which, by the way, Seth has been doing a very good job of bringing that out on TV and promos, cutting promos on Cody, bringing that stuff out. So I'm glad to see that they're doing that. They're not shying away from stuff like they would have back in the day. So I feel like Cody is where he needs to be right now. Now, if AEW lost MJF, that's a blow. I thought it would be a blow when AEW lost Cody, but that would be a total blow if they lost MJF. So I'm hoping that gets resolved, but I'm glad Cody's in WWE right now.
I will make the point, however, that losing Cody has been a blow to AEW. There has been a definite shift in how AEW has gone on, from the cohesiveness of the show to reports of morale. There has been a shift. So that, yeah, I will definitely make the argument that losing Cody was a big blow to AEW.
Yeah, I agree. I think because he wasn't doing a whole lot on screen, but he was a big, big influence behind the scenes. We know from talking to people that he was a big supporter, very, very good coach. He was great at providing insights to storylines and on the creative process. So yeah, I do think that I agree that the impact to him leaving is more behind the scenes than on screen.
And we heard from Ricky Starks on Busted Open recently when asked who he goes to for advice and knowledge. He said, still Cody. He said, I go to Cody first. And he said, I don't really have that relationship with anyone in AEW yet.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's his influence right there.
And Tony, to go back to your point, Cody, when he left WWE, I remember him, and we talked about this before he debuted at WrestleMania, and I was 100% on board with him coming to WWE because of only if he brought the American Nightmare character as is, complete package, music, the whole deal, which has happened. When he left WWE, I remember he released a vignette in the suit with the brandy or the whiskey and the cigar and the list. And I remember watching that going, holy shit, this is not the guy that we've been seeing in WWE. I want to see what's going on with this. And then slowly he started to develop the American Nightmare character, which we saw in Ring of Honor. He was sort of most of the way through developing that character. And of course at All In rather. And then of course what we saw in AEW and now to see that, but that character is a big time main event character. It's not a mid-carder in AEW. That is a WrestleMania level character, and he showed it. And I think one of the criticisms is that Cody wrestles sort of an old school, predictable style, but his matches with Rollins have been anything but predictable. They've been hard-hitting, technically and psychologically sound. So I'll be very interested to see how they bring that style to Hell in a Cell this weekend. I expect Cody to win this as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The other match,
I definitely think Cody's going to
I know we're running low on time here, but I did want to mention one of the things I think WWE is doing right is the Ezekiel stuff. And we've seen all these name changes and we sort of roll our eyes at it and go, all right, we know who these people really were. What are you trying to do, fool us? And you're insulting our intelligence. They're doing something different with Ezekiel where they're saying, we're going to let you in on the joke and you guys are going to play with this. We know it's Elias. But the stuff that they're doing, oh no, we have video and we have footage of them together with his brother, and they're playing it off in such a way that it brings the fan in and say, okay, you're part of the storyline now. You're going to help us push this Ezekiel character. And I just love what they're doing. And the stuff that he's doing with Kevin Owens has been hysterical. That Kevin Owens is on another level, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Owens. I mean, I've recognized Kevin Owens since the Festival of Friendship. Like, Kevin Owens is masterful. I do have to wonder if this was the plan all along for this whole Ezekiel thing, or if they decided to just run with it because the night that Ezekiel debuted, there was this uproar on social media like, what the fuck you mean, Ezekiel? That's Elias. So I gotta wonder if they just, saw that and just decided to run with it and make that a thing, or if that was the plan all along.
I have to think it was the plan all along because even that first night they put stuff out on social with the photoshops. I'm sorry, with the family photos that were great. They're showing old photos of Ezekiel and Elias together with like legends in the business from like 10, 15 years ago. It's awesome. But I do want to get your thoughts on the women's title match. We got Bianca, Asuka, and Becky. I'm a huge fan of all three of these women. They're three of the best out there. But I don't care. Like, they haven't told me a story that makes me really invested in who wins. They just haven't.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Bianca on this one. But I do agree with you. Frankly, I'm not really liking the new Becky Lynch. I just don't like it. I don't know why.
They're missing the boat on two of the three. They need to make Becky Lynch the man again, and they need to make Asuka the serious Asuka. Bring her in as a killer, and they missed the boat on her, bringing her back from injury still in the same clown
Yeah.
Asuka that they've been having this whole time. And I hate to say it
Right.
like that, but
But it's
that's
true.
how she's coming across. Is a
Dude,
clown.
I've been
Yeah.
screaming about this. I've been screaming about this the whole time we've been on the show together for almost a year now. When Asuka was in Japan as Kana, which is her real first name, she was the clown, and she was a vicious, violent, bad guy. We have not seen anything like that. And even her run in NXT, while she had very physical matches, were still WWE style matches. You bring Clown Kana back, all bets are off. I want to see her suffer 3 months worth of losses. I want to see videos of her crying at home. I want to see her break as a character, and then maybe at SummerSlam or Survivor Series, I want to see the reemergence of that character and show us something new and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, we've heard Bully for however long it's been, when we didn't hear about Asuka for a while, every week Bully was like, where the fuck is Asuka?
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I mean, I don't know. I'm going with Bianca. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going with Bianca as well.
Yeah.
The only other match I wanted to talk about, and we hardly talk about NWA these days because I just haven't had the time to keep up with it. There's just so much stuff going on, with my real life and with so much wrestling to cover.
Yeah.
But this pay-per-view, the Always Ready pay-per-view, and Matt Cardona announced on Twitter this week that he had suffered an injury and was going to need surgery with a torn bicep, right?
Yes, torn bicep.
It remains to be seen what his involvement is going to be at the pay-per-view. He said he's going to be there. I don't know if he can wrestle, so it'll be interesting. But the match I'm most interested is, and it's been a while since we've seen a contender for the women's title that's really been a credible contender. But boy, they're bringing in Kylan King, and we've all seen Kylan wrestle live. We've been around her. We've seen her journey. We just saw her in Texas, and then you guys saw her in Baltimore the next day. That woman has next level hustle, and she's just gotten exponentially better. I saw Kylan here in Queens of Combat, I want to say 4 years ago, maybe ish, and she was good then. She's only gotten better. She's a ring general now. And man, if there was ever an opportunity to put the title on somebody new and exciting who's going to bring it all over the place and represent your company, Kylan's the right person, I think.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting having Bully on commentary, being that he taught both of these women. They both went to Team 3D Academy. So that's going to be awesome. Bully, taking his first turn at commentary. I'm excited for that. But yeah, Kylan King she is just we saw her in Baltimore. I just walked past her as she was walking through the convention room. But she is a formidable person, let me tell you. And I know that our very own John in South Jersey will be ecstatically excited if she wins. We've got Kylan King's biggest fan.
And if you think she's imposing on TV, we get to hang out with her a bit in Texas. I see Neil's in the chat, RA, and Money Mark and Garza and everybody in Loose Change. We get to hang out with them doing the ring crew after the pay-per-view. And she was just throwing stuff around. She is a monster strong. She is crazy strong.
Yeah.
But a super cool person, very, very positive, very smart. I'm just looking forward to seeing her hold another title.
Tony, you got anything to add there?
Oh, I feel like Colin's gonna pull this one out and take the title away. I mean, I know it's kind of far-fetched, but Camille just got married. Congratulations to Camille and Tom Latimer.
Yes.
They just got off their honeymoon. And on Busted Open, Bully's been kind of talking about how possibly Camille, and they've been making references to Rocky 3 with Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa, or Clubber Lang and Rocky Balboa, when Clubber was actually training hard in the gym and all that, and Rocky was just posing for the paparazzi, training and taking photos with fans and stuff, taking it very seriously. So he's been kind of throwing that in there and saying that Camille's head's probably not 100% devoted to this match. She's thinking about her honeymoon. We're thinking about being married, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't be surprised if come match time, Colin King pulls it out and becomes your new NWA Women's Champion. That's what I'd like to see anyway, because Camille's been a great champion. No disrespect to Camille. Camille's been great, but I would like to see the Burke be on Colin King and see what she can do with it.
Agreed. I see Trend in the chat. Happy Pride Month. Yes. Got my Balor Club is for everyone shirt on.
Got my rainbow earrings.
Nice.
Yes.
Always represented. My wife and I are gonna try to wear a Pride shirt every day this month. I think we have enough to cover the whole month.
Dang, that's ambitious.
It's funny because we had lunch with my son Cameron, and he said, "Well, everything I wear is Pride." So I said, "Okay, that's true."
True facts. Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up, folks?
Well, on that note, along with Pride Month, I just want to say, we all have either family members or, someone that we care about that is LGBT Q in some way. I just want to say, support means everything to those people. I cannot imagine, for you guys know, but some of the people watching may not know. My younger sibling is trans, and he came out a few years ago, and at high school graduation. And I cannot imagine what would have happened if my parents had decided to disown him and kick him out of the house. He's currently going to Drexel University for civil engineering and is working for the Philadelphia Department of Water, I want to say. But yeah, I cannot imagine if my parents had not supported him and everything. How that might have changed his life absolutely, completely, forever. So support means everything, for anyone that is LGBTQ struggling, whatever, just everyone needs support. That's all.
Yep. And I mentioned Cameron, but my son Cameron is gay. I just assume everybody knows. But he grew up in a household where he didn't have to be closeted, and so many of his friends did, where they had a very rough time coming out, and it was a very difficult part of their lives. And I'm happy to say he didn't have to go through that. But on a related note, Thunder and her son Anakin released, they work with Champ Sports. If you look at her socials, they released these really cool sneakers for Pride Month. So you go over there and check that out and get a pair for yourself. They also had some t-shirts, but I think the t-shirts might have only been for promoting the shirt, the shoes. But go check out her socials from like a week or two ago. You'll see a link to go look at the shoes, but they're really cool sneakers. I'm not a sneakerhead, but they're really cool.
Okay, I'll check it out. I like sneakers. Most of my shoes are sneakers.
I try to wear shoes as little as possible.
That's true, but I have to wear sneakers for work. I'm just not a high heels person. They're pretty, but my feet can't do it. So I wear sneakers most of the time.
Tony, you're no heels, right?
No heels.
Tony's a baby face.
I mean, my boots have heels, if you want to call them heels, but no, I'm a boot guy.
You're cowboy boots.
I'm a boot guy, so yeah.
Yeah, well,
I wear tennis shoes sometimes. I wear Vans mostly when I'm not wearing boots.
I love how you call them tennis shoes.
How old are you?
He's 50. No, not quite yet.
47.
My grandfather used to call them tennis shoes.
I
think that's a Southern thing.
Growing up in Texas, we call them, if you want to get technical, for all you Texans out there watching, I used to call them tennis shoes. Tennis shoes.
No, they're sneakers. Sneakers.
And I still call dinner supper for all those Texans out there. It's supper.
No, dinner.
It's supper. It's supper.
Supper.
I'm with you on the supper thing.
Front row, you've been living in the South too long.
Probably. I started saying y'all a couple of years ago and didn't realize it.
I started saying y'all because of fucking you guys.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Yeah, probably.
I'm rubbing off on you.
On that note, where can everybody find you guys on the socials?
At That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine. And Truth Resists Simplicity on Instagram.
And I am at Tony Justice AJFA. And for all you Metallica fans out there, you know what that means.
I'm PW Front Row on the socials. You can find us on Twitter at Nation's Corner and all other social platforms, The Nation's Corner. We got some exciting stuff coming up, some announcements coming up in the next few weeks, and I think we're going to be sharing some interesting guests. So looking forward to that. Hope everybody has a great week and enjoy another great week of wrestling. Have a good one.